All right, real talk. Do you ever get home from taking landscape photos and the photos feel fine, but not intentional? Too much empty sky, a wobbly horizon, nothing for the eye to look at? Let's fix that. I'm Shelby. I make weekly landscape videos for beginners get serious about photography, sharing field-tested settings, simple composition, and quick edits from the lakes of North Georgia. I'm going to walk you through the exact composition moves I used on 4 shots I made here. Big sky balance, leading lines, minimalist motion, and subject weight with diagonals. And hang in there with me to the end because I have a 2-second habit that I use before every shutter press that makes every photo looks beautiful, to be honest with you. All right, photo one. This is the first one. This works because I made the empty sky do the job, right? I parked the dock on the lower right third and I let the sky be huge on purpose. The dock is small, warm, and bright, so it anchors the frame against that cool blue background. Horizon is dead level on the lower third, so the sky's weight feels intentional, not accidental. I left a whisper of grass or reeds at the bottom for a hint of depth. And if you want to copy this, shoot at priority or aperture priority f8, dial -1/3 to stop, to protect your highlights, and lock the white balance at 5600 so your blues don't drift. Why it reads as designed? Because the eye goes straight to the warm subject, then relaxes into the calm negative space, which is that cool blue background. All right, photo two, the vertical dot. Straight lines can look stiff or slightly crooked, which is why people usually bounce right off your photo. So give the eye a path, right? Let their eye do the work. I rotated the portrait, so I started the dock line at the right. I started the dock line right at the bottom corner, which acts as kind of like an on-ramp to the photo. Those posts create a rhythm that pulls you to the end of the dock and across the trees like an S path, even though it's straight. Verticals are actually vertical. And the settings I use, right? F-stop at 8, -1/3 to stop that overblown highlight. And then I focus about 1/3 into the scene. The magic here is the corner entry, the convergence. And so that means your brain actually knows where to go. All right, so the minimal boat and marker photo. I actually really love this photo. It's so minimal, but it tells such a story. You have big water, you have a tiny subject, which is that boat, and you have the shots that it's empty, right? But the move is to embrace that minimalism. Give the subject some breathing room in the direction that it's headed, right? So that's why I have the boat and I have the marker. They're both on equal thirds of the frame. So, they're in conversation with each other, but I left more space in the front of the boat so it actually feels like that boat is going somewhere. Now, the horizon is high, so the water becomes the story, right? Really the sky, it sets the mood. I kept the colors quiet. I made sure it was very minimal. And then that can, that helps breaks up that extreme palette that you have, right? You have a lot of blues, a lot of whites, and a lot of greens in the lake scene. So if you want to copy this, make sure you're at shutter priority 1000, right? You want to freeze that boat in the frame. You want auto ISO with a reasonable cap, right? Maybe around 800 to be honest with you because you're outside. And you want to make sure that white balance is locked. Now, you want clean geometry, you want purposeful emptiness in these type of photos, and that all will imply motion, right? It'll keep the photo calm, but it's alive. Now, photo four. I've been really into beechwood lately or driftwood. So here we go, right? Beaches are messy. They're full of sticks, they're full of footprints, random junk, and it's a lot of colors going on. So what I did, I built a simple shape to organize this, right? Here I made a weight triangle. I have the upright of the triangle is the driftwood. It's kind of like the hero of the photo. And I have the right third, right, which is a log and a rock line that kind of forms my triangle. And that pushes us towards the water. And the far shoreline with that tiny little boat there, that just balances the frame. So one side doesn't feel heavier than the others. So if you really want to copy this, it's not going to happen, but I'll give you my settings anyway. So the settings I use, right, I did f-stop at 8. I did -1/3 to keep my highlights from being overblown. And I focused on the driftwood and then I composed it in that way. Why it works, right? You have a clear hero shot, which is that driftwood. You have balance plus weight and diagonals, and that all equals structure. Now, your eye walks the texture, lands on the subject, and then exits at that horizon back there. All right, guys, payoff time. If you stuck with me to the end, I told you I had a tip for you. Here it is. So my 2-second habit that I do before every shutter press, I call it my edge audit, right? So before I take a photo, I look at my frame and I scan the edges, right? I ask myself a few questions. One, do I have a strong line entering from the corner on purpose, right? Two, are my crops clean? Are my posts cropped off? Are, my trees cropped off? Is my dot cropped off? If any of the answers to that question is or yes, you need to reevaluate, my friend. And we're going to reevaluate by just taking a step back, making sure our camera is straight, and sliding that frame left to right, up or down to make sure we have everything we want in that frame before we press that shutter button. Now, a quick recap, guys. I appreciate you staying with me this far. So, big sky balance, small warm anchor. You want the horizon on the lower thirds, right? For leading lines, you want to start from a corner, keep the verticals honest. And then for minimalist motion, you want to leave space in the front of the subject, right? Tell a story. Where is that subject going? And then you want to have a high horizon and very minimalist color. And you want to make sure you finish every composition. So before you press that shutter button, you want to make sure you do that edge audit that I just talked about. Make sure nothing's cropped off and make sure you actually have what you want in that frame to be in that frame. All right, guys. If this helped you out, please hit subscribe. I make one lakeside lesson every week, so I'm excited to see you there next week. Drop the word edge down below if you want me to send you a quick guide on my edge audit, and I'll send that right over to you when it's ready. I'll catch you guys later.